So my name is Wanita. I'm the head of key accounts at Momentum. So what does that mean? It means that I'm responsible for a business-to-business relationship with our important networks like Fairbairn. That's why I'm here today. But what that means in your lives is that I'm not the relationship manager that's here to talk to you about flows and getting more business from you. Actually, my whole reason for being in Momentum is to help you grow your business. What I would be speaking to Fairbairn management about is how best can I help and facilitate you growing your businesses. And so I really like the topic, the theme for this conference, which is about profitability. And what I want to talk to you about today is applying a profitability viewpoint to your product choices. So it's not going to be revenue to profitability, it's product to profitability. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is, how do you think about your product choice in terms of your products giving you a profitability edge? Do you think about your products in that way? Because we as product providers are in a kind of a race to create better and better products, better client outcomes. We are trying to attract your business. But in doing so, we're actually creating more and more complexity for you. We've created a world of choice overload that you expected to navigate, and then we say to you, pick the best product, pick the one that gives you an edge. How do you do that? Typically, you'll stick with what you know. You'll stick with providers that you know. Potentially, there's some providers and some products that you actually just keep using year after year. Maybe it's a bit of a habit. Do you check that? Do you question? Do you have a sense? You know, earlier in the presentation, in Guy's presentation, he was saying, people understand how much revenue they're making, but do you, if I was to ask you, do you know how much profit you're making? Second question, do you know which products are the most profitable? Possibly not. So instead of just looking at these sort of stick to what you know types of questions, how do you think in terms of what's my most profitable product? So now you might start to think, well, actually I stick with the ones that are easiest for me, and a lot of people stick with the comfort of commissions. So we're going to go to that conversation then. When you do commission-based work, when you are earning your income through commission, then your time and effort is really what it's all about. And if you stop selling, then you stop earning. So I've sat in and I've actually done lots of presentations trying to convince and motivate advisors to move to the more passive, more profitable annuity income stream. But why? When you're speaking to an independent financial advisor, you are preaching to the converted. And I've actually had advisors come to me after the session and take time to explain why they actually can't afford to move away from the commission-based income stream. That income stream is funding their business, their personal lives, and the lives of their staff, really. You can't just simply move over to another income stream. You also can't simply move over to another product line. So the conversation has really become commission, short-term income revenue versus long-term wealth creation annuity income stream. But it's not one or the other. In fact, it's not even both. It is about developing a profitability lens on your product choices and really creating that viewpoint when you select your products. So what is profitability really? We heard about that earlier already. It's about increasing your income and reducing your expenses. But if we unpack that a little bit more, advisors are out there making sales. They're trying to grow their client book in order to make more money. But there is another way. And the other way is leveraging your sales efforts better, so that per sale, you actually increase your income. And how do you do that? One is by selling multiple products to one person or to one group. The other is larger amounts at a time, so your higher net worth clients, and then leveraging the economies of scale of group business. You do one sales effort, typically to the employer, and you get access to that whole group. In terms of the other side of the scale, decreasing your expenses, the one thing to think about there, the important thing to think about there is the cost of acquisition. In previous research a few years ago, typically a client takes about 6 months from deciding that they want to invest to actually investing. During that time period, they might start doing research on their own, and then they might consult an advisor. Even after consulting the advisor, typically in our research, it still took 6 months before they actually sealed the deal. There's a lot of reasons for that. But on average, if your clients are going to be taking a couple of months to make a decision, that's a couple of months of your effort. especially if they keep asking you for more information and asking you to look for different products. So if you can shorten the turnaround time for client acquisition, you actually then are reducing your expenses. You're reducing your time and your effort, which ultimately is your money. And then, of course, generally reducing admin burden. We all want to reduce admin burden in any case, but when that's actually going to have a financial reward for you, it's particularly important from a profitability perspective. So how do you do that? Tech efficiency is key, but there are other ways to reduce your effort and to gain quicker acquisitions. And those other ways are really what I want to talk to you about today. But first, these are the aspects or the components of a profitability framework that I'd like you to keep in mind as we go through, and I will keep coming back to this and reminding you of them. So, multiple products per sales effort, quicker acquisitions, larger amounts at a time, reduced effort wherever you can. In your case, you are handing over some of the efforts to Fairbairn. An advisor I was speaking to earlier was saying what's really useful about being part of a network like Fairbairn is that a lot of the admin is taken care of. He doesn't want to be on his own, having his own FSP and all the admin that costs. But then later in the conversation, he was saying, but I still do have a lot of admin. So as advisors out there, you still do have a lot of admin. And if you can find ways to hand that over, you can reduce costs to yourself. And then everyone's talking about tech efficiency, and we'll talk about group business a little bit later on as well. So really, step one is developing a profitability lens. This means looking at products not for their product features, but for an angle, to see where you can leverage that product, where you can make best use of that product to either grow your client book or to grow your profitability, or preferably both. So what I want to really emphasize here is that a profitability lens is about looking for the angle, which means changing your perspectives. And that in turn means sometimes questioning your product biases or your habits. So it's a change in perspective that I really want to get across. I'm going to give you some actual examples, but if I leave you with one thing, I'd like to leave you with that questioning. When you look at a product, when you look at a provider, question, where else, what else, what's the angle here? Does that make sense? Okay, so what to look for with this profitability lens? The first thing is, can you find a product that is a door opener? This might not be the one that earns you the most, but it is the one that could be the most useful in terms of all those profitability elements that I spoke about a moment ago. Secondly, look for products that are flexible, where there are building blocks, where you can actually plug and play the bits and pieces that make sense for your clients and potentially save your clients money. And I'll get to why that's a profitability angle, not just a good client outcome. Which products can help you access new markets that you might actually find hard to go into? You might even feel like it's not your thing, you're not so sure about going into those markets. But which products can give you access to those markets at lower cost to you? Then, where can you delegate admin? Where can you give the admin away to a product provider to do it all for you, to do the heavy lifting, while you essentially focus on the client relationship, where you essentially focus on helping the client to get the good client outcome, and you leave the admin to us or to other product providers. And then finally, useful tech. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I mean by useful. Again, in the sessions earlier, kind of the lead into that has already been given. All tech is not good tech for you. There will be times where somebody presents to you the most amazing technology and you get all excited about it, but is it actually going to be useful and, more to the point, profitable for you in your business? And then the sixth and arguably most important one, what is the client story? You win when your clients win. We also spoke about that earlier today as well. But what I want to specifically talk about here in terms of your profitability is, do you know the story, the client story, when you are looking at a specific product solution? In the current context in South Africa, there are lots of client stories. There's looming interest rates, there's a cost of living crisis. In your own worlds, there's the increasing cost of regulation that we heard, but also everything else to do with running a practice. Load shedding and all of that, just putting the pressure on everyone. We have a dwindling high net worth market as our talent flocks overseas, leaving everybody else behind with less money for all the financial products we're trying to give them. So I'm telling you, sell more products, but you've got this middle class that's under pressure, and not really able to make space in their budget for all of those. And so the key here would be understanding the client's story when you are presenting a product solution, and then building that story into your story. So looking at a product and going, does this match my purpose? Does this match the problem I want to solve for this client? And can I actually sell the story rather than just the product? And then, to make this more practical, let's start with a question. Do any of you have a product that you prefer to lead with? A starting product, a start of the conversation. Have you ever thought about it in that way? You do. Would you share with us what your lead product type is? A wool, okay. Anyone else?
They just go straight to the RA.
The RA, that amazing. In our context, there's a client story that you definitely want to be solving. Has anyone thought of using
the building blocks of financial planning, which would be
a wool?
And so
Yes.
once I understand the building blocks, then we can go to the next.
That's amazing, exactly. And the building block concept, that makes sense because you start with one thing, and when you actually win for a client in that one, you then move on to the next. How many of you have thought of using health as a product to lead with? How many of you even do health? Health is a bit of a touchy subject when we talk to advisors, and for good reason. Look, I like to think that I'm quite savvy. When I joined Momentum, I told them, no, I don't need anyone to come and talk to me. I get this. I'll read the brochures. There's still some elements I don't understand. Health is a tricky topic. Medical insurance is tricky. And what we want to do is we want to actually move forward to look at how can an advisor use health as a starter product? Why would you want to? In our case, we have building blocks where you can plug and play, as I said. And when you plug and play, you can actually then save clients money on that health product. So that you can, in our case, save up to 40% through a plug and play product. So saving a client up to 40%, that's amazing. That's a conversation starter on its own. But as I said, in terms of that client story in the South African context, let's be honest, medical aid is a must-have. You have to have medical aid. You don't have to have an investment or even an RA, as much as that's something we want clients to have. A lot of people see that as the second step, the nice to have. If a client has a medical aid, let's take an actual example. If a client has a medical aid, let's say a comprehensive plan of just over 7,000 Rand a month. By moving to a building block model, this is a comprehensive building block model. I'm not going to go into which all the blocks are, but it's your hospital care, it's your day-to-day savings, it's a saver, it's even got gap cover. You're saving your client just over 1,000 Rand. So in a year, that's 13,000 Rand that you're saving that client. The client has already made space in their budget for the 7,272 Rand. When you make that savings, you can divert that. You can redirect that savings towards an investment. You can say, actually, since you've already got a budget for this, I can save you this much, I can redirect it to an investment. That's a good long-term outcome for the client, but it's also you starting to build your annuity income stream by selling both of those products almost at the same cost. Does that make sense? This is even more powerful on a group basis. This is an actual example of an advisor of ours who helped Mr. and Mrs. Steenkamp in this way. As it turned out, Mr. Steenkamp was part of a group of 250 employees. The savings he made for Mr. and Mrs. Steenkamp are actually on the lower end of the spectrum because they wanted comprehensive cover. But let's say he made, on average, that savings for all the clients in the group. That's a saving of over 3 million for that group. And as it turns out, the employer had already decided on an amount to subsidize premiums for the group. So when he came back with all of these savings, the employer said, well, that's my subsidy. Rather than giving it back to me, allocate that to other products. Top up their group risk. Can you offer them individual risk? Can you offer them individual investments even? So the advisor was able to do other business lines for this group, earning income on all of those different business lines simply by moving to a different model of medical aid that saves clients money. But this doesn't only work with medical aid. My point of using this as an example was to say to you, when you have that lens, when you go, where can I change to a modular product? Where can I make savings and how can I redirect that to something else that the person needs? So it does come back to that modular approach to building a portfolio. I'm going to move on quickly because I'm almost out of time and talk a little bit about general strategically important groups for you, the new markets I'm speaking about. We know that there is leverage to be had, that there's an economy of scale with group business, and we know that high net worth individuals, they're the ones with more income to spend, so we want to target them. But there are complexities, and we want to be able to offer you support in that complexity. For example, in our employee benefits solution, Funds at Work, we do all the heavy lifting for you. We have a whole team of employee benefits specialists throughout the country who can do all the heavy lifting while you actually service the client. But what's more, I earlier mentioned useful tech and handing over administration. You can hand over the admin to our EB specialist, and we also then have tech that helps with you being the scheme advisor and not having to do all of the heavy lifting on an individual basis. Because we do get advisors saying, this is all great, but how do I service the individual clients? And then, how do I retailize those clients? So in our example, practically, you as the scheme advisor, you hand over the lead to our EB specialist. They do all the admin for you. They help you. They walk alongside you so that even if you're not comfortable with EB business, you can still do this effectively. Then, our EB solution has a digital platform that's seamless for you as the advisor and seamless and comprehensive for the client. So there's a platform where we offer member solutions, and we have a whole team that go out there and communicate through digital and face-to-face, or at least telephone call touch points with the member. What that means is you get to stay the scheme advisor with low admin while we do all the work on a comprehensive basis for members and the employer. Then when the time comes for that member to retire, now they've built up the pot of money and now they suddenly are a profitable client to you. We call those members, we give them their benefits counseling, and we refer them to you as the scheme advisor to say, now your scheme advisor can help you with the next step. So now they're moving over to another product where there's income to be earned in terms of commission or the annuity income stream, depending on which way you go. And we've directed them to you at the right point in time. So these are different ways that you can actually look at a product in terms of more than just the product features. You can go beyond that to say, where can the product provider help me? Where can I actually hand over? I didn't even get to mentioning the medical aid. We have specialists there that can help you too. In fact, those specialists will help you even if you're not accredited and still give you 50% commission for the first year while you decide. So there are lots of ways where if you apply a profitability lens and you partner with a provider, you can actually make money out of your product choice. Thank you.